I'm D.B. McCrae, and I'm the author of the Rise of the Oathbreakers book series, parts 1 and 2. Now, this is an excerpt from part 2. That's the book that nobody buys. Been out over a year, and I think 50 or 60 people have purchased copies. And it's unfortunate because I've been making reference to it in a number of my videos, and this is another example of that. In my books, I write about the law and constitutional rights and how to apply those properly when it comes to interacting with law enforcement. But it's more than that. Of course, I write about bad cops, bad policing, the totally corrupt police unions, prosecutors, and the ineptitude of judges. But I don't limit my writing to just talking about the surface level issues and problems with law enforcement, the justice system, or government overall. I try to fill in the gaps. What I mean by that is I provide information that a lot of folks either haven't thought of themselves or they've never been exposed to it before. Well, that's my job, and I base it on my many years of experience back in South Dakota serving as a game warden, working from the field all the way up to having to work under some of the worst governors. How about we light this candle, and you'll see in short order where I'm headed with this. Knowing the identification laws, and there it is, identification laws, is paramount to police work, but not only the police. Prosecutors and judges at every level have an even greater responsibility to know the identification laws. But do they? These are the same political power brokers who, both past and present, foisted the identification requirements upon an unsuspecting public in the first place. For them not to know the very laws that they helped craft is a betrayal of the citizens and the rule of law. Adding insult to injury is how they task their unhinged order followers to enforce the identification laws, with zero knowledge how to do it properly. Who cares if they break a few heads and ruin a few lives along the way, the ruling class mutters maliciously. Why else would we have invented qualified immunity? Simply put, we are not beneficiaries of the justice system. We, the American people, are its victims. You will probably remember this encounter between Philip Turner and several officers from the Fort Worth, Texas Police Department. Brian from Here's the Deal narrates, so I'm not going to get into that part. But remember what we read out of part 2 of Rise of the Oathbreakers about the responsibility that those involved with the judicial system have in terms of knowing the identification laws. So we're going to start from here, and we're going to take it all the way to the end.
I'm not gonna ID myself.
Okay. All right. Let's go.
What are you doing?
Let go. What are you doing? Put your hands behind your back. What happens if you use that to yourself?
Let's face it. In our world, some cops just don't think you're free to record in public. Cops, lawyers, and judges have a perverted view of American freedoms. You would struggle to find a better example of this than in the interaction with Philip Turner and the Fort Worth Police Department. Philip operates the Batusai channel and was recording outside the Fort Worth Police Department when he was approached and threatened by these two costumed clowns.
You got your ID with you? You got any ID, sir? Do you have any ID? Yes, no, maybe. Do you have any ID, sir?
Am I being detained?
For investigation.
Everything that's going on in this world, and especially involving law enforcement, you're walking around law enforcement facility with a video camera. We like to know who's surrounding our complexes.
Do you have any ID? Are you refusing to ID yourself, sir?
Am I being detained?
Yes, you are.
For what crime?
I didn't say you committed a crime, but I have the legal right to detain you for further investigation, depending on the outcome of what's going on. You're walking around a law enforcement facility very suspiciously with a video camera. In light of what's going on, we have the right and authority to know who's walking around our facilities. Okay, do you have your ID? Are you refusing to ID yourself? Yes or no?
What happens if I don't ID myself?
No? Then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Yes or no? Are you refusing to ID yourself or not? Are you or are you not going to identify yourself?
Are you familiar with Texas Penal Code 38.02?
Answer my question. I get to answer the questions here. It's my investigation, not yours.
Officer Grindles here looks like he might be drinking on the job.
In light of what's going on, we have the right and authority to know who's walking around our facilities.
Yep, somebody needs to check this guy's water bottle.
And I get to answer the questions here. It's my investigation, not yours.
See, it's Officer Grindle's job to answer questions around these here parts. And the claim of, in light of what's going on, or in this day and age, doesn't trump constitutionally protected rights to press freedoms.
I'm not gonna ID myself.
Okay. All right. Let's go.
Wait, what are you
Camera
doing?
down. Let go. What are you doing? Put your hand behind your back. This is what happens when you do that yourself.
One of the outstanding characteristics of psychopaths is that they create a victim and then they blame the victim for his own victimization. At this point, the cop throws Philip in the back of the police car with the windows rolled up on a hot day saying, "We're gonna make you sweat because you didn't ID." Philip was banging on the windows to get their attention, but was ignored, and then he demanded to speak with a supervisor. Lieutenant Driver shows up and approaches both officers, and they seemingly ignore Turner. The three officers then rolled down the windows of the patrol car and found Turner laying down in the back seat. Lieutenant Driver identifies himself as the commander and then asks Turner for his ID, to which Turner told the lieutenant that he didn't have to identify himself because he had not been lawfully arrested, and then he chose not to provide his identification. Driver responded, "You're right." Driver walked away and talked with the officers, then returned to the patrol car and talked with Turner. Turner said, "You guys need to let me go because I haven't done anything wrong." Driver again walked away from the car, talked on the phone, and spoke further with the officers. They returned to the car, took Turner out of the back seat, after which Lieutenant Driver lectured Turner, and then the officers finally released him and returned his camera to him. The district court reviewed the case and granted the officers immunity from prosecution on each civil rights violation. But then the Fifth Circuit looked at the lower court's ruling and examined further whether Americans have the right to film cops in public. This is an audio portion of those proceedings.
If you were to go back to that excerpt that I included at the beginning of the video that I had taken out of Rise of the Oathbreakers Part 2, where I talk about the government has created a system that the government itself doesn't know how to manage. It's too complicated. You know, even for all those jurists with all those letters after their name and such, they don't know what they're doing. So I wanted to show this video because out of the 8 judicial steps that I identified, starting with the cops and ending with the Supreme Court, it only involved 3 of the 8. And of those 3, how many got it right? How many got it wrong? Did the police get it right? No. Did the district court get it right? No. And the Fifth Circuit barely got it right. You throw in 5 more levels where people with all the numbers and letters and shit have got to get it right. They all have to know the law. But do they? What do you think? You know, good luck trying to survive a system like this. This is why I fill in the cracks. This is why I fill in the gaps. And I take it deeper so you can see right there in front of us the system that we have to deal with, created by the government, and then it sends its psychotic order followers out. And on top of it, Terry v. Ohio. Oh, screw the probable cause requirement in the Fourth Amendment. We're just going to fabricate, like qualified immunity, reasonable suspicion. And the police have been abusing it ever since. And it was shown right here when the district court initially granted those 3 officers qualified immunity. We don't stand a chance. We don't stand a fucking chance trying to work through this. What justice system? Somebody explain that to me.